We'll go to this. Can you please state your name and where you
my
live?
name is Katya Bender. I live on Pine Tree Drive, which is like 2 roads down here. I am a parent of 3 current students in our school district. And when my 12-year-old heard me talking to one of the other parents about coming to this meeting and putting up solar panels, he asked me, where are they going to put solar panels? And I said, well, the current plan is to take out the woods and put solar panels in. And he said, but that's the wildlife. So he then proceeded to ask me if the point of solar panels wasn't to be environmentally friendly. And I said, it actually is. And I'm not opposed to solar panels. I think they're cool. They're great. My parents had them on the roof all the way back in the 80s. And they did, make a financial difference in our electric bill. However, I'm sitting here trying to discuss with a 12-year-old how being environmentally friendly with solar panels makes any sense when you clear out the entire wooded area that the children in this neighborhood, they play there. They explore there. They learn about the outdoors. They learn about, my kids can identify birds I didn't even know existed. And we live in a society where all we talk about is people need to be outside more, people need to be off their screens more. And we have this natural gem right here in our school district. And, oh, well, it'd be cool to just level it all and put some solar panels in there. 30 years from now, if those solar panels are no longer good, is someone going to replant trees? Are we going to reestablish the ecosystem? I mean, there are bears that live in there. I know this because they show up in my backyard sometimes. There are deer that live there. They stroll through our entire school district complex here. What is the, like wetlands aside, this is a massive environmental impact we're talking about for the sake of going green. I mean, there has to be a better solution than me explaining to all of the neighborhood kids that solar panels are more important than the actual environment that was already there. That's my 2 cents on this whole thing.
Thank you, Ms. Bender. So we'll go to the gentleman here in the back with the raised hand. Thank you, sir. Can you state your name and where you live?
Yeah, my name is David Pape.
Hello, Mr. Pape.
And those of you that know me, know that I've taught in this school district for close to 35 years, 34 point something. And also that I was part of making the nature trail here, started in about 1979, 1980. And I, with a group of many teachers, did an awful lot of work putting in a nature trail and an environmental center in that area that's in there. And I know for a fact that there are many animals, and well, for instance, a bog turtle. We have bog turtles that are in that area. Okay, now they're protected. They're an endangered species. And there are not many areas that house bog turtles. I also know that we have many different kind of birds back there that are rare and that nest in that area back there. And I just, from the standpoint of environmental science and the standpoint of nature, I don't want to see that wooded area destroyed. To me, it's terrible. After the district invested a lot in developing an environmental science area, and I've taken many of my classes back there for biology and environmental science courses. And the reason a lot of kids recognize birds and recognize different kind of animals is because they've been learning a lot of that stuff for the last many, many years. And they enjoy it. And to me, it breaks my heart to see the thought of wiping out the wooded area for this purpose. I also like the idea of a solar area, but I like the solar area idea on roofs or on small parcels, that they're not destroying the environment. And that's what concerns me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pepe. We'll go, okay, to the gentleman, the first gentleman
Hi,
closer
Steve
to the front.
Walters here.
Hi,
I live
Mr. Walters.
about an eighth of a mile up from Ski Flip Road, and I had a neighbor that tried to put in a miniature housing development, and he had wetlands there. So I had called DEC to see if they did a study on the mud bog turtles, same as Mr. Pape said. He did not have one done, so it took 3 years for the DEC to come in and do this study, only to find out that there were endangered turtles there. Needless to say, his development was shut down. So what happened, did DEC come in to do this study yet? And if they do, it's gonna shut you down for 3 years.
So that's part of the process. If it's through
So
the
it's gonna be 3
if
years
through
of
the
talking about
zoning,
this.
if through the zoning, we need to go through that,
Well, you
the
need
district
to.
would
It's
comply.
wetlands. It's wetlands within an eighth of a mile of a current known location of bog turtle. So it's a no-brainer that this study is gonna have to be done. He owned 10 acres and had 1.5 acres of wetlands, and it was shut down.
So to answer your question, if that's part of the permitting process that we must do, we will of course do it.
But I don't understand how we got to this state of this process, and DEC hasn't been contacted to see what kind of things they have to meet. The Department of Environmental Conservancy, I mean, they have to be a part of this if there's wetlands. So how weren't they notified to
So
say, hey?
the wetland study will go to all the departments, or has gone to all the departments that need to receive it as part of the part of the point of the current place that we're in for the permitting process.
So maybe what I'm saying is, maybe the wagon's ahead of the horse here. That you're talking and trying to get approval on something that might not even be able to happen.
Potentially. Yeah.
So is anybody gonna reach out to DEC and ask about this study?
Yeah, that's part of the permitting process. So
And who's doing the
ELA,
McClure?
well, it's, right now it's under one pulled permit under ELA Sports. So that's part of the earlier conversation, Mr. Walters, about do we need to split the permits or not? Baseball, softball, solar project. We don't yet have the answer to that.
All right, I think we might just all be getting too excited over something that's impossible, because if there's bog turtles there, you're done, shut down. And hopefully there are. Because then you'll actually have to explore your other options that it seems like nobody wants to explore. As in rooftops or bidding it out to other companies or any other options. Seems like everybody's just focused on destroying this woods and this is the easy solution, but yet it seems like there's a lot of fences that may be up over this.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Mr. Walters. I'm going to go to the gentleman in the back that had his cap, with the cap that has his hand up.
So, one of the things I was looking at the proposal and going through, looking at it.
And I'm sorry, sir, can you say your name again?
Eric King.
Yep, hi, Mr. King, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
So one of the things that I was looking through in this proposal is the case study that they used for, I think it was Mifflin County School District somewhere, I'm not sure exactly where that was. It said they put in a 5 megawatt array system for their school district, and it listed their savings and so forth. Does anybody actually know how much it costs to put in a 5 megawatt solar array in this building? Or at all? I looked it up, it's about $2.80 per watt, which roughly makes that about a $14 million project. So right now you're asking, the school board's basically saying that McClure is gonna be our only option, we're not gonna get any bids on what they're basically laying out $14 million just to purchase the equipment. That's not the cost of installation, that's not the cost of building whatever bridge or access roads or anything else that may need to go into this. When you're playing around with $14 million, you need to get other bids. I don't care if we're just leasing it or we're purchasing it, other people need to be involved in this. Not one single person in this room would have any construction done on their home without having 3 or 4 estimates done to see who's gonna give them the best bid. Now, it may still come back that McClure is the best option. That may be the case. But if there's another company that says, no, we can put all of them on your roof, it's gonna be a third of that cost savings, and you don't have to destroy the woods. That's just common sense. There's nobody here that would add an addition to their home without getting 3 or 4 other offers or estimates from other contractors or anything like that. The other thing I was looking through that really obviously goes back to if we're leasing or purchasing, it's a very gray area when they list here after 5 years we have the option to purchase it. If it costs $14 million up front to purchase it now, what is that fair market value after 5 years? Has anybody on the board asked McClure these questions to know what we might be in for 5 years from now if we do decide to purchase this?
So actually, we did ask them that question.
Okay.
And at this time, we can't determine what the fair market value would be in 5 years.
Okay.
But that is part, if the board were to move forward and sign a contract with them, that would be part of the process then.
Okay, so the other question is, on their graphs here, it lists that known maintenance needs to be done in 15 years to replace the inverters that go
Correct.
from 12-volt solar direct current energy to 120-volt home electricity. Does anybody on the board ask the question of how much those inverters are gonna cost after 15 years?
I think they're
It's
about,
their problem,
right.
but what would it be at our cost?
I think we're looking at about 50,000. Yeah, $50,000. If the district purchased them.
Now, we don't know that for sure, obviously, they
Correct.
could be more expensive 15 years from now.
Correct.
The other thing is, does anybody on the board know what degradation of a solar panel is? Somebody mentioned it a little bit before. These solar panels lose efficiency of about 0.5% to 1% each year over their lifespan. So if you're putting in a 30-year project here, and you're gonna lose 1% of efficiency over the time, I know their graph laid that out in there,
Yep.
but by the time you would be done doing this, they're basically useless after 30 years. So their energy
I
savings
think their
after 30
projections
years-
were an additional 10 years after the 30 years, that they would still be able to perform.
The solar panels have a lifespan of 30 years, so at the time you're done with that 30 years, you're gonna be replacing them, because they're no longer going to be cost effective to continue to maintain them and get the effectiveness out of them to continue to use them. Now, also, like it was stated before, if we're just leasing these things, obviously they take them away. Do we go back, do they plant trees and reclaim the area back to the way it originally was when they found it?
That would not be part of the contract.
Okay, now, my other question is for this, if you looked at that 5 megawatt station to purchase it outright at $14 million, if you sat there and said, okay, let's do a 30-year loan on $14 million, that comes out to $200 and something thousand without interest a year that you're paying just on that. So financially, does it make sense to spend $200,000 a year to save a little bit on electricity and also destroy the wetlands and woods, whatever's over there? Somebody's making money on this deal, and it's not us. We're gonna end up paying the ongoing maintenance, the ongoing replacement, the ongoing, if there's any vandalism done to these board or panels. What happens if McClure goes under in 5 years from now, and we're stuck with just sitting there with solar panels and nobody to maintain them? We all know exactly what happened to Solyndra Energy Company when that happened 10 years ago. These companies get all sorts of grants and federal money, and then 5 years later, they're done, and all of a sudden, no longer there to maintain them. And we're stuck with a 5-acre plight on the land.
I don't have all the answers for your question right now, Mr. King. I can tell you, you brought up maintenance. That's all on McClure, other than
But what happens
cutting the
if they
grass
go-
around them.
What
If
if
we
you-
purchase them, then it's on us.
We need to find out what happens if McClure goes under. What is our taxpayer going to have to fund for ongoing maintenance for these?
Right.
If they put this project in, everything's wrapped up and 100% done at the end of this year, and say 2 years from now McClure goes under, what is our financial obligation yearly to maintain, support, and continue this solar project? Those questions need to be answered to the community.
Thank you. I think the gentleman right here with the eyeglasses.
One thing I have is.
And sir, can you tell me your name quickly?
Norm Hanworth.
Norman.
Okay, I'm very active in the Swing Ski Club, and, you know, we're in the, leaving things natural, and that's the way it ought to be. But anyway, oh, do you think, must you take the lease, how long can you take a lease for?
Up to 30 years.
So So you can take it for 10 years if you want to.
We have the option to purchase after 5 years.
But I'm asking leasing. Just
If we ended it without purchasing, I'm sure in the contract there would be like kind of termination fees.
Yeah, right, but I'm just asking how many years? I mean.
So is 30 years, is 30 years or nothing?
Is it 30 years or nothing, or what?
Well,
There's
no,
no.
after 5.
Okay,
wait.
just let me finish the question. It's
Go
not a
ahead.
big deal. Okay, you lease it for 10 years,
Yes.
okay? Now what? You don't take the lease, when they rip it out?
If we broke the contract, we would have to sort through what would happen at that
I'm
time.
saying, but if you took a lease for 10 years, and you only took it for 10 years, what happens to it? Because you're not leasing it anymore.
We would have to purchase it out then at that point.
You would have to purchase it even though you lease it for 10 years.
So it's either a 5-year lease, buyout after 5 years.
Correct.
Or it's a 30-year lease under contract?
No, that's what I was trying to say, and I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you and stuff
I
like
never
that.
want to.
You know, I never do, so don't worry about it. No, 5 is the earliest we can do, but after that, there's options all along there between 5
So
and
if we come
30.
at 10 years, we
So
say, we want to buy out at 10
Yeah.
years now.
Or after
Yeah.
10 years, it says, this really didn't work, get your garbage off our land, so we could do that, you know.
Mr. Green, let us
There might be a
find
clause
that
there.
specific, because there would be a termination cost.
Oh, there'd be a
Yeah,
termination cost.
yeah.
I'm not saying there would be
Yeah.
a termination cost, but we could terminate and tell them to leave if we wanted to. But we don't know what, we don't, that cost was. And the other thing I wanted to say is, you're asking some kind of semi-legal questions here. And one of the things that needs to be done also is our solicitor needs to sit down with their people, and they need to draw up an agreement before we move forward with that. We haven't really even started that yet because we're not that far down the process. So all those things would need to be taken care of in
Wouldn't McClure have
agreement.
their own specific contract, which you guys would just review and then decide to meet their terms
They-
or not?
We would
They-
still run it by our solicitor. and
They
have
would
them
bring-
provide input. Yeah.
They would bring a contract, at which point we would review and also send to our solicitors.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you didn't agree to something in the contract, would you be able to say, well, we would agree to it with these terms?
Well, then
instead?
we would go back and forth and
You could
negotiate that, yeah, yeah. And that would all be also pending board approval, the actual signing of the contract after solicitor review.
Correct.
Yeah.
Can I just make a statement quick? I know, I was here in the meeting in November, and when McClure was here, she was really pushing, saying, we need to vote on this. I mean, it's on video. And I
So
remember
that-
that,
so
that's why I figured January 2nd, or 3rd was coming, and I really felt like you guys are gonna be voting on this, you know,
Yeah.
that's why we're here.
Yep.
Now you're extending it. Now do we need to come back every month so that we don't miss?
So well, I would encourage you to keep coming.
Well,
to
I
the
know.
meeting. And I know you're always here,
I'm
Mrs.
just
Williams.
saying, it felt
But,
like she was pushing it.
So, since then, the legislation has changed. And initially, it was sunsetting, I believe, at the end of December. That's been extended for, I'm not sure how long, but we have ample time now to still realize, for us and McClure to still realize those tax break incentives.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what has changed there.
The money for the bond that we received to, reconsolidate everything, like for all the loans and stuff, and the money we're getting right now, to fund the softball field, if we were to push off that solar panel a little bit, I know you guys said you have to spend that money in the 3-year timeframe,
Correct.
so is that part of the solar panel, or is that just
No,
the softball?
that's totally
So if
different.
we moved with the softball, we would be still good with that money, and then the
Yes.
solar panel issue would be just another issue.
Yeah, if the direction from the board then is to split the projects,
Right.
I think we had $2 million for baseball,
I just wanted to
softball.
make sure
That's
that
still,
3-year money wasn't
yep,
tied
that's
into
still
that solar.
intact. That's still usable for us for that project.
The only connection between them was that they're in kind of the same location,
Right,
so we kind of
that
worked the
makes
permit process through them. But other than that, there's no connection between
There
the
was no
two.
question because of that bond money. That
Yeah,
maybe
I mean,
wasn't-
we could forget about the softball field and do the solar field if we wanted to, there's
I
no
think the
connection that way.
softball and baseball field was best for this.
So I'm gonna go back to Mr. Hanward here, and then we'll go back over to you, sir. Okay.
But do you people really think more of leasing or buying?
That's a question for the entire, there's 9 different opinions on
The question
that.
I have is, let's say you go buy it, okay, go buy it.
Yeah.
You think in 30 years, there wouldn't be something better out and more efficient than panels, or, in 30 years, something drastically is gonna be changing. So here we're locked up with that, and you could have something with half that or whatever, because technology, how it advances, in 30 years, that's a long time, man.
And that would be something that, if the board were to consider purchasing it,
Yeah.
then it's theirs, and if the technology is,
Yeah.
no pun
You know it's
intended,
gonna
light
get
years
better,
advances, light years ahead of that, and we own those panels, by we, I mean the
Because I'm
district.
looking at, I'm up in age and stuff, and I'm gonna look at my great-grandkids and stuff, like, they're the ones that are gonna be paying for this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We
Right.
won't be around,
Right.
so you gotta think about that too. And we're a small community, you can't really raise taxes all the time. There's a lot of things, I don't know.
Which is why we're looking at energy savings projects.
Yeah, I know, but the money you're saving is not a hell of a lot.
I-
It's nothing, and 10 years down the road, that money that's gone. Inflation, everything will suck that right out of it. So you're doing nothing.
Yeah, so we're trying to give opportunities for the board to look at cost savings.
All right. That's why Mike's not here.
Thank you, Mr. Hanworth. We're gonna
So
go
I
over
have 2
here.
quick ones. The first one is this all borough property or township property, or is it a split between the two?
There's a split.
All right. Then the second one, in the last 5 years, the advancement in electric vehicles has gone through the roof. Let's say in 5 years, what 5 acres of property is gonna require today may only require 1 acre of land in 5 years. Did we think about, we can take this project from here down to here, and now all of a sudden we can fit it behind the baseball field, or there's other locations that it would fit. The electric ability in the world right now is only gonna keep getting better, 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 and the required land is gonna keep, the footprint's gonna keep shrinking and shrinking. You might be able to power this building off of an area the size of a car.
Potentially, sir, I don't know that.
You know what I'm saying?
Potentially, yeah.
The advancement in electric is just phenomenal right now, that we're gonna tie up 5 acres now, that if we just waited 2-3 years, could be a drastic decrease in land.
It could also get bigger because, like you said, the electric vehicle demand is getting higher, right?
Yeah, are
So-
teachers gonna be able to plug their cars in here off of this?
Currently, that's not an option
Plugs out
currently.
there.
There goes our profit, I'll tell you.
Which then your demand goes up.
Mr. Lane, I have to apologize, I apologize to the community.
Yep.
I do need to leave, I have to pick up my daughter.
Yep.
I really appreciate all you guys coming out, giving us your input. I apologize, I do have to leave, I'm so sorry.
Understood?
I can't Gail, so
I'm really sorry.
For listening to us.
So,
Thank you guys for coming out.
I just want to say, I just have 2 pictures here for you, I'm sorry to interrupt you. But this is another option for solar panels. Not just on the roof. So if you wanted to pass these around to the board, you can see there's other options that are out there. Just Google it. If you can't put them on the roof, you might be able to, parking deck garage. There's either panels in front of the school with the kids are putting their bicycles up. So when you say there's not enough room, there is. So I didn't know if you wanted to pass these around or look them up.
you can leave them at the table
Yeah.
and start passing them around?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's something I didn't know, and I was like, wow, look at this, different options for solar panels. So let's not look at what's, let's think of something else.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. I'm going to go back here to Mr. Pape, and then, just give me 1 second, sir. And then I'm going to look to Mr. Disler to see if you want to continue to extend the public comment. Mr. Pape?
Just real quick, I see you have the wetlands map up there, and I
Yep.
just reread all of this. You keep on saying wetland study. Has there actually been a wetland study, or did we just survey it and decide there's wetlands there?
No, there's been a wetland study.
Where is that?
Well, that was a wetland study, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a whole, there was a wetland study that was required as part of the permitting process.
And has that, but that hasn't been completed. It's just been surveyed. Am I correct on that?
It was surveyed in the environmental study portion of it to determine the wetlands is complete. We just received that information right before the break, and the wetlands map is there.
Hold on, so you're telling me that the environmental study is complete? Is that what you just said?
No.
No.
The portion that we know that is required at this time. There may be other portions, we don't know that yet.
So, I want to be more clear so you can answer my question more clearly. I think what has been done is it has been surveyed and established that there is wetlands there. Has anything besides that been done?
No.
Okay, so because we keep saying wetland study, but there
So,
hasn't
so
been.
you're right, maybe the terminology is being interchanged.
Okay, so it's been
But
surveyed and
that's,
mapped, but
now
no study.
that's going to all the different,
The map is.
well, the report that accompanying the map will now then go to see if other studies need to be done.
Okay, so then that report, where is that at? What do we actually have saying what we found in these wetlands, other than a map around? What do we actually have? Do we have something like that?
We have that from ELA, the company that, I guess, does that?
Land grant survey.
Land grant surveyors.
The survey.
Yeah.
Again, survey it.
To establish that there's wetlands in there.
But that's all we did. All we did was establish.
Yes, that's where we are in the
Mr. Kirk, you
process.
understand,
Yes.
right? I feel like you're shaking your head.
Yes.
But we haven't done a study in here, right?
I don't think that they went that far yet, but that's
Okay.
part of the process.
I just wanna
where
make sure
The
we
wetlands
understand.
have now been established,
Uh-huh.
so I would believe that the next thing is that report will be sent out to the different agencies,
I'll do theirs.
and they'll all do theirs.
Got it, okay.
They will,
understand.
yes,
Because we
they
kept
will
saying
tell
wet-
us if we
because
need to
kept
do
talking
additional
about
work.
the wetland study that we did, but I don't think we did one. I think all we did was survey it. And I just wanted to be real
Correct.
clear, there's
Yes.
a big difference.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
No, you're
and
right.
thank you for pointing that out. The terminology is getting interchanged, and that shouldn't be like that.
Okay.
You know. You're welcome.
Yeah, I think we're at step one of probably 30.
A million.
You know, we're exploring our options, okay? The wetlands were now established. We didn't know that before this report. First time I'm hearing there's wetlands there. You should have called me. You have a map like this at your house?
I have a map like that on my phone that shows the wetlands and where they come from. I'll Google it for $30.
Honest to God, no, it wouldn't help us with the project, all right? So now we know we have wetlands established, and I'm sure other agencies will now get involved, and obviously the questions you guys are asking are the same ones we're asking.
I'll go here, and then we'll go Mr. Geiger, and then I'll look to you, Mr. Disler, you know, how much further you want to go with the public comment. So back here again, please.
Yes, Mary Roberts.
Yes, Mary.
So just as Mr. Kern was saying, we're just at the very beginning of this, and I think it's really important for our school board to keep in mind that we already established the solar panel company that you received a bid from, they're gonna receive a 22% tax credit this year. So they are on that timeline, because according to your notes from back in August, it drops to that 10% after the year 2023.
I think that has changed, just, that is,
It
yeah.
constantly is changing.
Yeah.
I've been watching the tax credit for the past 4 or 5 years now. It
Yeah.
constantly does change. We were at 26% last year. With that being said, I think it's important to keep in mind that the company is going to push you to make a decision sooner and continue, because that's gonna benefit them more. I think what I'm hearing, I don't need to speak on the behalf of everybody, but it sounds like it's not the community the community isn't necessarily against the idea of panels, but we're asking the board to present additional options and not just say, we have to rip out this acreage and we have to put them here. I feel like, just like Mr. Kern said, there's not enough research done yet to rush into any type of decision.
Certainly not for me to make a decision. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, no, there's no action. Thank you, Ms.
It's
Roberts.
the whole point for having the meetings, to ask questions, get answers, see where people stand, and to move forward. No one knows all the answers. As Bob said, we're at step one, and we've been working on this for, what, 6 months now? You know, so.
And that's why I strongly did not want to be pushed to this 5-minute limit. I really think that the community, the people that are here tonight, wanted to be able to discuss this openly. without it being, you know, something that we feel like there's not enough transparency.
I'm gonna go to Mr. Geiger, who had his hand up behind you, sir, and then again, like I stated earlier, I'm gonna look to Mr. Dissler to see if we're gonna continue.
And was aware back in 2000 that we are sitting on wetlands behind us here. The nature trail and everything was deemed a wetland way before 2000, because I came here in 2000 and they were deemed wetlands back then already. So it is known to the district that our property is in a big section of wetlands. When they built the high school, that was already known then, back in 1980, that that was wetlands. And the baseball field and softball field were wetlands back then already. So it's not new to the district that they now found out this is wetlands. If research was done, they would have known that on their own without getting someone to do that.
So I think part of the survey was to see where the location of the field, solar array field is.
Right.
What's that potential impact as they continue to go process
Right, and I
through the
understand
wetlands?
that, but the fact that the district is just saying they're finding out that this is wetlands isn't true.
Just for clarity, Mr. Geiger, some of the people at the table, it may be true for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
For them.
Yeah.
Bob Kern does not know there was wetlands down there. Does that help you, Brian? I did not know.
Well, it is there, and, you know.
Apparently.
it's been there.
But some of us knew there were wetlands,
I was gonna say,
Brian.
Matt Green knew it.
But we knew there were wetlands, but I don't know
weren't sure
exactly where, how far back they were. And that was the reason, Brian, for moving it up closer to the road, because the quarry and the wetlands, from what I knew, were back further. So that's why if we were gonna do it, it made sense to me
Right.
to move it out closer to the road, because the wetlands were back further, from what I knew of the area.
Right.
So.
And with what Dave Pape said about the environmental stations and everything out there, Stephen Hoslet knows this, that Troop 66 went in there and renovated that whole thing. And within 5 years, the community, students, and kids destroyed it. And they spent a lot of time and a lot of money redoing it.
Thank you, Mr. Geiger. Mr. Dissler, do you want to continue? With
Yes,
public
I would
comment?
like to just thank everybody for showing up tonight, voicing your opinion.
Hold
We've
on,
heard
hold on,
of-
hold on.
What's that? Oh, we're not posing, I'm just thinking on this.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, I want
Okay.
to make a comment on it.
Yep.
For voicing your opinion, I do believe though that McClure contacted us for a cost savings, and this is one of the opportunities that we looked in for another cost savings for us taxpayers in our district. Is that not correct?
Correct.
Okay, so all we're doing is looking to see what we can do in order to help defray that, not defray, to get that money to help us as a resident of the Northern Lehigh School District. Yes, we're gonna take a lot of things into consideration, and I've heard some tonight that I'm thinking very foolish that we even think. The other options that we have, maybe going by the roof. We have to look at with all we did for our facility here, what's it gonna do to the roofs? With the warranty and stuff that we may have in the roof. So there's a lot of discussions that we're still gonna have to make. I would appreciate that if you take your time out every month that we have our meetings to show up and voice your opinions. It's well worth it. So if there's any other comments that anybody would like to share with the board, board members would like to share, we'll move on to the next one. And that will be bus patrol.
I'm gonna take a 2-minute break. You do whatever you want.
Okay, so again, no decisions are being made this evening. If you have additional questions, February committee meeting, we'll revisit this. From there, we'll decide whether it goes to the February board meeting or not. If it doesn't go then, at some point, we're gonna have to take it to an actual board meeting for a vote to move forward or not. That is not happening in January. The next time this specific topic will come back to the public will be at the February Technology Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting. Okay.
one quick question. Are you ever gonna have the company outfit person be here for us people to talk directly to him?
That, we were planning for that in February, sir.
Oh, February,
Yep.
okay, okay.
For both softball, baseball, and solar. Representatives from both, yeah.
That's gonna be February 16th.
Is this project going to be mandated for the 3 bids, or to any?
It is not currently mandated under the current legislation.
It isn't?
It is not.
Okay.
So,
If-
Mr. Fedorcha.
If people have some questions that may need some research, can we ask them to send it to us in an email? So that we can at least have answers when we come here, and we will not have to not be able to really deal with the issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you foresee any of the savings going to the taxpayers at all? Or is that, it's not?
It will be folded into the budgetary process.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone for that conversation. I appreciate the time all of you brought forward for that and all the thought all of you brought forward for that. We're going to move next topic on the agenda is bus patrol, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Durr for that.
So the next topic, bus patrol. As most everyone is aware, our current GPS routing software provider will no longer provide our product come June 30th, and we're investigating other companies. So at this point, we're really in the research phase. We're collecting information, but we did meet with Bus Patrol. They offer a nice camera package. We're working with Brandywine too to see, get their input, but just basically it was a quick update. Bus Patrol is something that we're looking at.
Doesn't Brandywine have any type of video in their buses?
Currently, there is audio and video on.
And that's supported by Northern Lehigh, or is that supported by Brandywine?
The camera systems belong to Brandywine.
And you have access. You have access to monitor that at current time?
Real time? We do not. So it's recorded on a hard drive. They turn it over to principals who review the video with their own player in their office.
Let me ask you this. Could there be a possible way that Northern Lehigh does have actual time?
So with
recording.
We would really like to have that option, and Bus Patrol provides a product that is real-time video. If there was something going on the bus, we could actually log in and see it.
Was it real time or was it expedited time?
Well, it records. You could. What they said is you could go. You could just log in, kind of like our camera system now. Once it's recorded, it's on a hard drive basically, and you can just log in and you can pull whatever time just passed. Yeah, you can log in and pull that. Yep. So it's basically it would almost be like real time. Yes. But I think you're pulling an actual recording.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there could be a slight delay.
Could be a slight
Okay.
delay. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions about Bus Patrol? We're in the research portion right now.
Well, I do have another piece. What kind of cost is that going to cost the district?
So we need to investigate that a little further.
Okay.
It does sound like there is some cost to us, an installation cost, I'm gonna call it, per bus, but there's a whole program, and at this point, I really need to look at it and make sure that we know what we're looking at when we present it. But I wanted to give an update that we did meet with the Bus Patrol folks, and it's one of the products we're looking at.
We're finished then with Bus Patrol?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. We'll move to technology.
Okay, it's hard to believe we're talking about this already, but 4 years ago is when we first purchased the one-to-one laptops for the high school. So we're at the point where we're looking to do a refresh of the one-to-one devices. This would be for high school students, and it would also be for district-wide staff. 4 years ago is when we purchased all the devices for high school and for the district-wide staff. So we went out and got some quotes from a few different vendors.
And Integra had the best overall numbers when we looked at their quote. We looked at GDC also had a their quote was probably, I think it was within about $5,000 to $7,000 of Integra as well. Those are two vendors that we deal with quite often. So what we are looking to purchase would be 600 HP Fortis G10 14-inch Chromebooks for the high school students. They rebranded their Education Edition as Fortis now. In the past, for the elementary schools, we always bought Education Edition Chromebooks. So we're looking at 600 Fortis Chromebooks. These are the 14-inch, so they're a little bit bigger than the ones we usually buy 11-inch for the elementary students and the middle school students. We would also require 600 Chrome licenses, 600 higher ground cases with straps. Again, that would be for the high school students. Then we would be looking at 300 HP EliteBook 630 G9 laptops. It's the model that's very similar to what I have right now. And that would be a combination of staff laptops for district-wide staff, and it would also be for, we would be putting some of those into computer labs at the high school as well. It would be for Andy Kern's lab for his video editing classes, things like that. We would also be putting him in Chris Bennett's lab for, he does AutoCAD and those types of things. And we would also have a few extra ones. I know Mr. Barnes has also asked, he had a request that he would need them because he uses Photoshop and some other things for his yearbook and some of his classes that he teaches. So he asked for 5 to 10 in his classroom as well that we could put in a cart situation. So that would be 300 EliteBooks. We would also order 60 wired mice and keyboard combos. Again, that would be for Mr. Kern and Mr. Bennett's labs. New 27-inch monitors for those labs as well. 60, that would be again for Mr. Kern and also Mr. Bennett's labs. And then we would have 120 USB-C hubs with HDMI VGA. That would be for use with Chromebooks and the laptops. That would be a combination of student and staff. That would be for situations where sometimes they need extra ports. There's some older, there's still a few projectors that need VGA, so a lot of the newer devices only have HDMI, so I would convert it to VGA as well. So that is what we are looking to order to replenish the one-to-one at the high school, and we already had that in my budget for this year. We were figuring it would cost around $600,000 over a 4-year period, which is around $150,000 a year. So the quote came in at $502,830 for all the devices that I just mentioned. And we went out and we also got some lease agreements from different companies just to do we typically lease from California First Company every year. So what I did is I asked each vendor to give me some lease options as well with companies that they deal with. So we got a lease option from Lenovo. Even though they do laptops, they also do lease agreements. Dell provided a quote, and then there was a couple banks in there. And still Cal First was, they were right at the lowest. Okay, there was another one that was comparable, but Cal First is one that we deal with. So Cal First lease option would be, they gave us a lease option of $138,811.31 paid annually. So that would be within our $150,000 budget. One thing we did leave off of this for now is last time we purchased the laptops, we did pay for an extended warranty, a 4-year warranty on those. Mr. Hawes and myself sat down and went over the numbers, and we felt it was not worth it because we paid probably about $50,000 extra for that 4-year maintenance. And when we looked at what we actually used, it was less than $10,000. So what we did is I asked them to take that off of the quotes. And what I'd rather do is take that extra money and maybe put it into my repair fund. It kind of gives us a little more flexibility, and I think over the long haul, we do a lot of the repairs ourselves here anyway, and we could save money by doing it that way. So I did take that option off of there, which lowered the cost a little bit. So what I am asking for is if we can put this on the agenda for the school board for the lease payment, because the lease has to be approved by the board. And again, this was built into the budget already starting this year so that we could purchase them. We said we would purchase them in the winter, around January. And that way, we're still seeing some supply chain issues with laptops. Gives us a few months that we can get the devices in and we can start working on them to get everything ready for next year.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. All the board members, so you're in favor of putting this on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, so that'll be on the agenda, please.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sure you're gonna make Mr. Green happy with that report you just gave.
Yes.
And I guess that concludes our technology. And I don't know, Mr. Link, do you want me to open up the
Yeah, just give me
fire?
1 second here so I can get
Mr. Chrisman.
Yeah, Mr. Chrisman. And Mr. Geis, you want to join us at the table?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're at finance.
We're at finance.
What about finance?
Sorry. You're still welcome. Sherry, I apologize.
Continue.
Mr. Lincoln, it's okay, I'll just continue.
Please do, sir.
We're gonna start the finance committee meeting, and we'll turn it over for the cafeteria agenda. Mrs. Bing?
All right, some updates for the cafeteria. I just got an email from someone at Giant, the shopping center, prior to the break, saying that Northern Lehigh has been selected again as a local school district to participate in the Roundup at the Register program for the entire month of January and February. So, which means like anybody that shops at Giant during that time, when they go to check out, they'll be prompted to round up to the nearest dollar. Those additional funds will then be donated to the food service department, specifically to be used for programs such as Backpack Buddies, things like that, helping clear out some negative meal account debt that's still lingering from prior years. So speaking of Backpack Buddies, we have about a little shy of $10,000 left in that account to utilize to continue the program. So I definitely foresee us being able to sustain it for the rest of this school year and into next school year, which is great. And again, that's the program that we put together, non-perishable food items for 2 days worth of food for students that sign up. We're at around 132 students that we bag meals for every week. Next, the negative meal account balances, just an update there. Last year, this time, we were around $10,000 worth of district-wide negative account debt. This is pre-COVID, not that has accumulating during the last couple of years where meals have been free, but pre-COVID, so between 2018, 2019 timeframe, we make multiple attempts on a monthly basis at this point. Ashley in the business department has sent out letters, emails, made phone calls to parents to reconcile those debts, and we were able to bring it down to a little over $5,000. Currently we stand there, so we essentially cut that in half, which is great. And I just wanted to mention under the CEP program, which we are currently under right now, with the universal free meals, that will not accrue that negative debt, so we won't be continuing to add to that for however long we're under this program. Also, Primero Edge, the new software program that we'll be fully putting into place starting next year. We're starting the background work. We had a kickoff call before the break with the person that's managing this project from Primero Edge. And we have weekly meetings starting this week with her. You know, it'll be like a 13, 16 week process somewhere in there. She had informed us just to do all the background work, data entry, things like that. And we just paid that installation and training fee, which was around $3,900. We also recently had our food service staff utilizing their uniform allowances that they get annually per person, which total between the 19 employees totaled $2,900 that was paid out of the food service budget for their uniform allotment. Another thing that I wanted to update on is previously, over, I want to say the last 7 years it's been, Sue had started and I followed suit with this, going to Produce Junction weekly to purchase our fresh produce for the week for each school. I essentially eliminated that because we had applied for the DoD Fresh program, which is like a grant program that we have, that we can utilize those funds and get produce delivered weekly to us with grant money instead of purchasing through Produce Junction. So we're saving a little bit month by month doing that for the fresh produce. And then the completion of the audit, they discovered that we were about 4,000 in the positive at the end of last year, so the 2021-2022 audit completion year. And anytime you are in the positive with the food service department, you have to put together a action plan on how to utilize those funds, which we ensured them that part of those funds, or all of those funds, were going towards the additional costs for the upgrade of the dishwasher that we selected for the middle school project that happened over the summer. And lastly, just coming off of Thanksgiving and Christmas meals, anybody that participated, students, staff, and coming to dine with us over those 2 meals, any of those additional funds are always appreciated. Any of those meals served that we sold, any little bit helps, the food service budget. And then also the breakfast with Santa, as well as the senior citizen Christmas meal event went seamlessly, and everybody really enjoyed that. So it was nice to bring that back after not doing the senior citizen meal for the last couple years. And that was at Slatington Elementary. So that was pretty much all I had from food service.
Quick question,
yeah.
you're talking about your negative meal allowance, and I think that's well that you've cut that in half. Supposing students want to buy extras or the add-ons, do they still have their regular accounts that they put money in and things like that? And supposing their account is dry, can they still buy an extra, or are they told no, or how does that work?
If their account in our system shows a negative balance, we cannot sell a la carte. They still get the full meal component, full meal, but any extras, a la carte, drink, snack, whatever it may be, unfortunately we can if they're in the negative. Now, if they bring us cash, as long as they aren't putting themselves deeper into the negative, say they want to purchase a $1 snack and they have that cash with them, we do allow that. So
and that would be the same.
they're still able to get snacks.
Anybody who gets free meals, whatever, they would all do it the same way.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Spink, for your report. Appreciate it. Mrs. Montour, are you doing this?
Yep.
Yep.
Can I
One
just say
question.
something before you go on? I just, on behalf of the team that worked on Senior Citizens program, just want to thank the food staff again. I rode on one of the buses to take the senior citizens back, and that's all they talked about was the food.
Yeah.
And they just loved it. So you guys do a great job.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that.
Yeah.
Did you get a free meal, Tim?
Actually, I did.
Did you?
It wasn't free. I had to clean up.
Can you
But it was good.
For the summer job you do, you should.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one.
Yep, the Act 1 resolution. So on the board agenda for approval will be the Act 1 resolution for this coming school year. The resolution means that we cannot raise taxes over Northern Lehigh's adjusted index, which is 5.5%. So that will be on the board agenda to not raise taxes above that. So if everybody's in agreement, we'll move that to the agenda for Monday evening. Also, Portnoy agreement will be on. This is, Portnoy is our delinquent tax collector, so every year we approve the motion to approve Portnoy to collect our delinquent 2022 taxes. If the board is in agreement, we'll move that for approval on Monday evening as well.
All in favor? Yes.
Burke
It's been working well.
Yes,
It's been working well.
Portnoy works very well. Yes, they really considering when you used to use the county and the county would take 10 to 12 years to get people's delinquent taxes paid. Yeah, Fort Knopf does this a very fine job. Berkheimer agreement, this is just listing me to receive updates for EIT collections. Currently Heather and Ashley in my office have those updates, but I need the updates in order for apply for the Sterling tax credit. And I did miss that email this year, but I was able to still apply because I called them and they said you're not on the list, that's why you didn't get the email. So this is just giving me as permission to get that email.
So Sherry, they're still, the other two are still gonna get it?
Yep, the other two do the monthly
Yep.
deposits and the weekly deposits that we get for EIT collections and LSD collections. I just need to get that email for the Sterling tax credit.
Yes, everybody's in agreement with that? Yes.
And the last one is, don't forget, the board agenda will be the motion for the ERIP that the board must consider every year according to contract language for the Education Association. So that will also be on the board agenda Monday evening for approval, or whatever. Yep.
Thank you.
All righty.
Very good.
And that is it for finance, unless anybody has any questions. I'm hungry, I tried to keep it short.
Me too. Me too.
Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome.
Okay, now we'll move on to extra and co-curricular meeting. So, Mrs. Heckman, if you can open the meeting.
Everybody, welcome to the extra and co-curricular meeting. Let's start with online sales.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Heckman. The last board meeting approved online ticket sales, so just want to kind of give back the stats. So we're sitting around about 20% of individuals are purchasing single game tickets online, 80% are still paying cash sales. A big hit has been the season passes. We've had 32 people take advantage of that at a discount, and a number of those people are come to multiple winter sports events. So that's been a very positive impact. And some people have asked in regards to, will that take care of in the fall? And I said yes. So we will be offering season passes in the fall as per the directive. Any questions with those online sales?
Okay. Are you going to be doing spring, like for track?
We don't give admission. We
Or
don't sell
don't you
admission
have to
for
pay?
track.
Oh, I don't remember.
If you'd like to pay, no problem.
We'll even give you a
We'll take donations, absolutely.
You'll get a heck of a deal, Andrew.
Yes.
I did buy the basketball, to see my daughter play basketball, and it is very convenient. I mean, I just walk in and it's just very convenient, so I do recommend it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was against it in the kind of like, everybody wants cash, but that was a little convenient, so it's good.
Can we promote that online sale anymore?
I send out a weekly, so to all the visiting athletic directors, so all the schools, I send a game day information sheet out to all those. And everybody in the Colonial League has Planet High School, or renamed, it has like 3 different names. And we're able to communicate that to all the parents in those particular programs. So that's what the visiting athletic directors are doing. They're pushing that. And I just received Bangers today, so I pushed Bangers information out to the groups that are going up Saturday to Banger.
Because it does really work well. I know with my grandchildren out in Indiana, it's almost 100% there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't have a choice.
Right.
And it works very well.
Yeah, and there's...
It's a great savings also in the fact that the ticket collecting and all that is not,
Yeah.
and you don't have to handle cash after that.
Right.
I know it's related, but not really related, kind of early. For fall, for football,
Mhm.
or soccer, and whatever concession stand. Mr. Link, I know you and I talked about it before. I think we should really consider taking online payment at the concession stand.
100% online payment?
No. Option. Cash or...
That's something to look at. I think we have to look at infrastructure. Like, I don't know what infrastructure has to take place through a wireless network, looking through Mr. Hill. I've never done any of that.
So
and point of sale, like it'd be, I guess, a point of sale.
Yeah, so you can do it really simply. So like up at our little baseball thing, we have a phone that stays there with the Square app. So over here at the concession stand, you could maybe take an old Chromebook.
There's wireless over there.
And you have wireless service, so you can take your Chromebook there. You attach a POS plug-in, which The actual swipe things are free when you sign up, or you can pay $20 to get an extra one. Or you can pay $80 for like the one that is the touchless pay. So it's a one-time fee of like $80. And then you set up the Square app. And the only time that you don't actually pay for anything, you get charged a fee every transaction. So you have to build in a service fee and all that stuff. But on a small scale, like up at Emerald, is where I help manage, we've seen almost a 25% sales increase because of that. And it's actually kind of neat because it actually breaks down like what your top sellers are. Shows you how much you made on that particular. So like here, reports.
Do different groups use that concession stand
Yes.
to
So
raise
depending
money?
depending on what sport's being played.
Uh-huh.
So in the fall, we have boys and girls soccer. So if it's a girls soccer game going on, girls soccer. Generally, soccer has been boys and girls. They kind of they'll work it together and kind of split it up.
Okay.
If it's field hockey parents. If it's football.
Okay.
And if it's during track, then it's track. And here in the winter, cheerleading has stepped in for basketball, and then wrestling does wrestling.
Okay.
So depending on the sport, and then we prorate it, and then we give the money that's fundraised after we deduct expenses are then put into their concession account and then used for a number of things.
Got it, okay. But it's still like, the money is filtering through
Through the
you
school
or
district,
us
yeah.
first. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if they like, yeah, I didn't know if it was, that answered my question. Thank
Right.
you.
And the only thing I would caution if we did a point of sale, I know we tried doing a cash register years ago.
God,
That
I
lasted
remember
for
that
about
cash
30
register.
seconds. For soccer and field hockey, since there's not an influx of humanity at halftime, where in football there is, that's the only caution. That'd be something that we'd have to look at during halftime.
Yeah.
And then you get the visiting band, if it's Pine Grove, we're looking at 300 kids, plus everybody else that's coming up and looking to purchase something. It's definitely something to look at.
And maybe even you make a section that's
Pay online only.
Yeah,
Sure.
credit card only line.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely
you
options.
Have a person dedicated to.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely open. We just have to look at infrastructure and work with Mr. Hill and something that we can investigate coming up the next couple of months.
Yeah. Because I know I go to games, I'm like, oh, crap.
I know.
And if, if there was an option to pay, I would have.
Right. Any other questions about online sales? One of the really cool things that we do every year is we have a Ring of Honor ceremony, and we're going to be honoring some state champion wrestlers and the 1985 state championship team on Tuesday. Mr. Kern was the coach of the 1985 team, so we're going to be honoring Coach Kern's team and the state championship that they won back in 1985. Everyone is welcome, and it's just a great ceremony that we have, and to recognize some of our Hall of Fame inductees. Any questions?
Is that happening at the gym?
Yeah, it's going to be right before the wrestling match on
Okay.
Tuesday. So we have junior high wrestling match. Once the junior high wrestling match is over, then depending on the time it is, then we'll have our ceremony and then the wrestling match. The varsity wrestling match will commence after that.
That should take about 10 minutes. I'm sorry.
The ceremony.
What? No, the wrestling match. 72-0, Brian. 72-0.
Yeah,
That's
we
like
have-
11 pins and 2 wins.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We have a
23-0.
number of, the good news is we have a lot of wrestlers. They're just not experienced.
Oh, man.
Got to build somewhere.
It hurts.
I know.
Basketball team scoring 2 points in a quarter. I mean, you think they go to halftime and just throw the ball up and score more than 2 points. It hurts. I mean, the football team was fantastic.
I like the idea though, showing the history of Northern wrestling. For me personally, all 3 of my state champs will be there. And the team, of course. And wrestlers of that team, which is awesome. So I'm looking forward to it.
So is it wrestlers, like obviously the team, Sir Ern, are there other wrestlers from other years that are also being honored that night?
Yeah. Yes.
Who are they?
They are, I just want to make sure I got Jeremy Dogmanitz and Mr. Kern, if you can help me, was he 1995?
95.
We also have,
My last match coached.
Really?
He wants steaks, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I knew,
Oh,
I knew
no.
Doggy wants to eat.
I'm dating myself.
We also have Herzog.
Giz wrestled for Glenn, I'm sorry. We called him Giz in high school.
We also have, I want to say it was, I mess him up, Jared Herzog.
Jared
Herzog,
yeah.
state champion. And then we also have Ivan Rosario, I want to say 1991. Yeah, 1991. So we have 3 state
Yeah.
champions as well as the 1985 team.
Cool.
Yep. And tomorrow I was notified, Mr. Hausnick at the morning call will be mentioning or talking about the 1985 team, and he requested a photo for the morning call, the 1985. So that should be in the morning call tomorrow. Yeah.
Before you adjourn, since for the fall sports, I want to say thank you for writing your letters about the football team and calling that to the district's attention. I was not at the game, but just watching it on TV, it just looked like an absolute atrocity and just a total unfair playing field that we were on that day. And, you know, thank you for stepping up and doing that, and hopefully they'll correct some of those things in the future.
The circles that I work in, they won't publicly admit it, but they
Yeah.
admitted without admitting that they messed up.
Yeah.
Which doesn't help us.
No, it doesn't help at this point, no,
Right.
but, you know, they're not gonna take the championship away or anything like
Correct.
that, so, but it's a shame for our guys. Anyway.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Geist, for your report, and I guess with that, we can vote.
We're done here.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.